We just people from the north side. Once the Timmy's hit the shore fine. Winter ready on the full tide.
Hey guys, what's going on? It's your host, your boy George Mackay, back here, but it's not Straight Talk Wrestling. It's not MLW. No, this is, let me get my head out of the way.
Father to father.
So on this show, I'm G, he's
I'm
D,
D.
and we are father to father. And we start every episode off with a cheers. We're not sponsored by Summersby, but we would like to be. Summersby Mango Lime. Get yours. It's like summer in a can. It's so good.
God damn. Oh, that's that good shit.
That is that good shit.
Oh man, I could drink this for days, weeks, months.
So D, father to father is a concept that you and I came up with. We were sitting around, joking around, shooting the shit like we always do. And we decided to have a show from our perspective, talking about fatherhood, manhood, navigating both these things in a world where everything is consistently changing. Relationships, you with your blended family, which we'll get into, me with my 22 years with my beautiful wife and my two gorgeous daughters, and that little pain in the ass white dog that I love to hate so much.
I can't even believe you're still alive, bro. 22 years and you haven't been killed yet?
Well, you know, there's a secret to my success. And the secret to my success is just, or what I've learned recently since my therapy journey over the last 5-6 years or so forth, is learning to pick your battles and learning to know when to defend and knowing when to retreat and knowing when to go on the offensive. And when I say offensive, I don't mean like, I mean like knowing that you have to defend your position sometimes, but also sometimes you have to take the lead in that position and say, I'm not giving in here. There's not going to be a compromise.
You just got to agree to disagree sometimes.
Exactly.
That's it.
Which in essence would be considered passive aggressive.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's a situation where you have to sometimes just say, listen, this is my position, this is my stance, and I'm not backing down.
Right. Nothing's going to change. Going into an argument is going to do what? Do nothing but upset both of us, right? What's the point? I'm not going to get my point across. You're not going to get your point across. We're both bullheaded. So what are we going to do? Sit here and just argue all night? No, man. We got to walk away at some point because we got examples watching what we do all day long.
And that's the funny thing is that we both agreed to start a podcast together where we're supposed to have neutral opinions. We'll see how that goes. Past episode 1. But this is the pilot episode.
Here we go.
So let's get into your story a little bit. Okay. Let's get into the blended family. So you and my good friend, actually one of my best friends, God, I can't believe I'm saying that on camera.
I can't believe it either.
All right, well, I inherited her. She never left. It's kind of like when you get like a bug that comes in your house.
A leech.
It's a leech, but not a leech in like the way like she's sucking my blood or anything like that. But she's just a leech because she's just been in my life. And then her and my wife became good friends, and now they're kind of besties. So whatever. But anyway, she's my favorite eunuch, and that is your better half, Jerry. I love you, Jerry. I know you're gonna be watching this and hating everything about it. But Jerry, she's an absolute gem, and she came into a relationship with her daughter. And then you came in a relationship with your son, Elijah. So Denver is her daughter. Elijah is your son. And then you guys co-created two more amazing individuals, Amari and Zion, who I am godfather to neither.
Oh, we're not going down this path today.
We're not.
We ain't going down this path today. He's Uncle G.
I'm Uncle G.
And that's it.
I'm Uncle G from the B. And I'll be the one that they'll probably call when they need bail money.
Hey, damn right. Or you'll be in there with them.
Probably the ladder of the, depending on the situations that we get into. Let's not go down that road. All right, so you come into a relationship with a blended family. Now you have, we talked about this before we went on air, but 3 years old, Zion, 6 years old, Amari.
8 and 13 going on 23.
Going on 23. Shit, I got a 14-year-old going on 48.
Oh, there you go.
And the funny thing is, when they're both 23 and 48, they'll still be living at home. No, they'll still be living at home. They can't afford a house in this market. Are you kidding me?
Oh man, it's so true. You know what? Well, everything that we learned growing up does not apply to anything that's going on today, and it's crazy. So it makes it challenging raising kids. And everything that we've seen in our lifetime, they'll see nothing of it, and they'll probably see things 10 times worse than we've seen.
I think that's the fair point to make, is that they will see sometimes 10 times worse. If you think about it, we at our ages, me 40, you in your late 30s, we've lived through a pandemic, but them at 1, 3, 6,
Mhm.
and 10
Yep. Went
lived
the
through a
pandemic.
pandemic.
Yep.
And also Denver went viral. Our kids getting hurt on Instagram. Great website, great little
Oh,
page.
she's gonna kill you.
Nosedive. Guys,
She's
check
gonna
it.
kill
Check
you.
it.
But we're gonna put a link to the video.
We'll put a link
so
to
you
the
can
video.
all see it.
100%. It's a glorious video.
It was all in good fun. Nobody was hurt during the making of that video.
Well,
And it
Denver's
was all
pride.
candid.
Denver's pride was. Denver's pride was. And it's one of the 7 sins. So
Oh,
really,
God.
we helped her to overcome a sin.
Oh,
If you
yeah.
really think about it.
Oh yeah.
But
Absolutely.
let's talk about the challenges of being a father in a blended family. So you come in with only having experience to a son, and now you're raising a tween going into far away from the teenage years, but a tween going into the teenage years. Before you
Yep.
know it, 5 years went by like that, and now
She's
you've got
an
a
adult.
13-year-old. Yeah, she's an adult,
Mhm.
making her own decisions, wearing sweat shirts in the summer in like 80-degree heat. I don't know how she does it, but she does, and she doesn't sweat. So good for
She's-
her.
Yeah, she takes my hoodies all the time, and I'm just like, "What are you doing? It's
What-
summer outside. Why? Why are we doing this? It's hot. The AC's on. Why do you have a hoodie on?"
But as a father, you appreciate the fact that she's
Oh,
covering
100%
up,
cover it all up.
cover it all up.
Cover it all up. She's 13, doesn't look 13, and believe me, I can't go to the mall with her, else I'll catch a charge. So
That's also a factual statement on both
Yeah,
sides of
can't-
things.
can't do it.
And it's scary, right? I mean, but I gotta say this, one of the coolest moments for me is one of the first few times we were all hanging out together. And I told you reminded me of my favorite baseball player, David Ortiz, #1 forever.
Big Papi.
Big Poppy. I quickly saw how much Denver latched onto you,
Yeah.
and how much you were no longer a stepdad at that point, but you were dad.
Yeah.
She didn't call you, Derek. She didn't call you stepdad. She didn't say this is my stepdad. She said this is my dad.
Yeah.
What was that like for you? Because this is from perspective of fathers. So what was that like for you being recognized as like, because just to get it all out there and not to be too personal, Denver does not know her father. And there's nothing wrong with that because this man came in, stepped up, and is an amazing father. And I will say that. I will put that on wax right now. He's an amazing father.
Thank you,
And
thank you.
but what was it like the first time that she just came up to you and just hugged you and said, "Dad, I love you, Dad." Like, what was that like? We're gonna get emotional on the show from time to time, so it's okay. It's okay.
You know, it's a feeling that I'll always remember. I didn't think it was ever going to happen, to be honest.
And why? Well, just to interrupt. Why did you not think it was going to happen? Did you think because you were just trying to feel each other out at that point?
Nothing against her or anything. It was just I didn't know if it would happen. So it was more of the fear of the unknown, right? And I mean, it was always something I would have loved to have had my own daughter, but she has become my daughter just naturally, right? It just kind of happened one day, just the flip of a switch, and she started calling me dad. And I think the first time it happened, I didn't know how to respond, right? But I just said, okay, I've become enough of an example for her to see, hey, this guy treats me right. He treats my mother right. He takes care of us. He understands, what we need and fills that void. And I think when she was at that age, also she didn't quite understand the void, right? Which is for me, I didn't come in with the intention of, hey, I'm taking somebody's place. I said I'm coming in here to be an example for her, right? And that's really what kind of led me through the relationship with her. And I would say now that she's 13, I've watched her grow from 5 right up until 13, and obviously until the end of her life. That's my plan. Maybe walk her down the aisle one day or whatnot. But it's been such an experience to watch her grow and watch her develop and build that bond and that relationship with me. Nobody could ever say that's not my daughter. Nobody could ever take her away from me. I'll catch a charge. It's not happening. But she's my one and only daughter, and she knows that. And no matter how many times we may get into tiffs or arguments and whatnot, that same difference of opinion that we always talk about, she's my one pride and joy, and I wouldn't change it for the world.
Amazing. That's an amazing sentiment, amazing statement. And you know what? I don't have any sons, but what I do have is a beautiful budding 14-year-old girl who's strong in her convictions, stubborn, and sarcastic as fuck. And he
We're
laughs
talking about the same person.
pretty much, and he laughs because he's living the experience.
Oh yeah.
But I also have my little one, Ariana, 7 years old, going to be 8 actually in a couple of months, and she is the one who wrestles around with me, the one who plays with me, the one who loves watching sports with me.
Yeah.
Cassie used to, like, we're all still very, very big wrestling fans. That'll never change. But Ariana is more sports oriented and more energy, very high energy. And obviously it comes with, she's undiagnosed, but we're looking at getting her diagnosed. Probably think there's ADHD, which I want to take a stance on ADHD right now.
Yeah,
I have
let's talk about
ADD.
it.
I have ADD. Okay. And
Diagnosed?
Yes, diagnosed, but never was on pills. That's the one good thing that
We
my
didn't do that growing up.
no, that's the one good thing my parents did do for me was not go on pills.
Yeah.
But I remember going to see therapists when I was younger and trying to work through some of my issues. Because even as a kid, I was angry.
Yeah.
I was undiagnosed rage, and I found out through therapy sessions as an adult, a lot of it stems from a rough childhood. Don't get me wrong, my parents gave me a lot of things. They gave me a roof over my head. They gave me food in my stomach. They gave me clothes on my back.
Yep.
But emotionally, they were both withdrawn.
Yeah.
And when I actually found out that I was going to become a father, so we had just gotten married. We got married very young. Got married at 23 and 24.
Mhm.
She was 23. I was 24. We were expecting our daughter a year into our relationship. She was a New Year's baby. She's born October, so New Year's baby.
Yeah.
Do the clock, do the
Yeah,
math. It's simple. But when she told me that she was late, and I was typical corny 90s humor, like late for what? You got a doctor's appointment? Like it's 9:30 at night. And then she's like, no, I'm late.
Yeah,
I was like,
yeah.
oh,
That late.
and I remember I had to go to work because I was working afternoons that time. So we had our little afternoon delight, if you will. And then she
Mhm.
told me, and then I was driving to work and it was all just a blur. And then I remember about 6 months into the pregnancy, and Jerry can attest to this because we were working at Canada Cards at the same time. I thought I was having a heart attack. I thought I was dying. But it actually turned out
handle it.
couldn't handle it. But I actually turned out to be a very severe panic attack.
Shit,
I went to the hospital and monitored my heart. The doctor came in and was like, "Oh, you had something that we call a anxiety attack or a phantom heart attack." So I'm like, "Why don't you just stick with anxiety attack?
Right.
Like, why don't you go
Phantom heart attack.
heart
Scare me to death again so I have a real one. Why don't you?
I'm like, "What does that mean?" He's like, "Well, put it this way. Put it if you're," and he talked like this. He had a squeaky voice like this. And he said to me,
You can't take that seriously.
"No, you can't." It sounded like Elmo on crack. It was fucking hilarious.
Okay.
But he said to me, "I'm going to go back to my regular voice because doing this is not going to be comfortable."
No.
But he said to me that imagine your body being a computer. So the anxiety attack was almost like a reset. Everything shut down and rebooted. It was like hitting safe mode.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, I can get that. So I took a couple days off from work. I reevaluated, and I was still nervous as fuck to be a dad. And then fast forward 3.5 months later, because much like she is in real life, Cassandra was late to the party. We go to the hospital. I remember getting a call at work, and I was covering for my boss. I remember getting a call at work, and she's like, "Hey, I think I'm having the baby," and I was like, "Shit, what do I do?" And then she's like, "Well," I'm like, "Should I finish my shift?" Or like, I don't know what to do. I was scared shitless, and
Finish my shift, bro.
so it was actually
You got a new one on the way?
I was outside having a smoke, and Jerry's like, "Why are you still here?" And I'm like, "This is how long I've known Jerry. I've known Jerry for like 16 years." She's like, "Why are you still here?" I'm like, "You're right. I gotta go." So we go to the hospital, and there's complications. Eventually had to get an emergency C-section. But luckily she came out. She was beautiful. And then just in the whirlwind, my wife's like had to go for this serious operation. So I'm focused on her, focused on the baby. And I look over my shoulder and the baby's not there. And I'm like, where the fuck's my kid?
Heart attack number 2.
Well, I'm freaking out. I'm like, I go to the nurse. I'm like, where's my kid? And she's like, calm down. The doctor will be. Nobody's talking to me. Nobody's. So I scream
freaking out
in the middle of the operation. I'm like,
where's my kid?
I'm like, I'm not leaving this operating room until I know where my fucking kid is. Then this jackass male nurse
Oh, here we go.
comes over and he's like, "You need to calm down." And I'm like, "You need to
calm down.
You need to fuck right off." And he's like, "What did you say to me?" I'm like, "You need to fuck off. Somebody needs to tell me where my kid is." So before I know it, at this point, this is where the rage comes in, because when I got so angry back in the day, everything would go dark. I almost blacked out for a minute. And I woke up to the pediatrician coming in and saying, Mr. Mackay, please let him go. Let him go."
Oh, shit.
I looked over and I had this guy, and this is a true story. My wife can attest to this. Well, actually, she was doped up, so she really can't attest to this. But I'm sure the wonderful hospital staff at William Olson
remember that shit.
They remember me. I had this guy by the throat, and I was like choking the shit out of this motherfucker. And the pediatrician comes in, he goes, "Baby had a fever. Mom had a fever. We have her in NICU. We're just monitoring." So I dropped him.
Yeah,
and then my
you got
wife
an
was
answer.
back on. I said, "Hey, that's all I wanted."
You
was
want
an
an answer?
I just wanted an answer.
Simple.
So for the first 4 or 5 days of her life, she was in NICU. And luckily the fever went down. We were able to take her home. But the sombering part about that whole story is that there were babies that didn't go home.
Yeah.
There were babies that you knew where there was. I remember seeing this adorable little guy, preemie, must have been this big.
Yeah.
And he had the tubes. And I just remember putting Cassie down on her thing, and I lifted up the shit, and the mom and dad looked at us because they're like, "Oh, they get to go home." And I said, "You guys are going to get there one day too." And I said, "I'll say this now: stop telling your son to flirt. Stop your son from flirting with my daughter." And I'm sure that little guy made it out okay. and everything like that. But it was scary. And then coming home being a dad. But the coolest thing was the moment I held her in my arms for the first time.
Yep.
And I always say this: a woman becomes a mother the minute she finds out she's pregnant.
Right.
A father becomes a father the minute he holds his baby for the first time.
Yeah.
I will say that, and
It changes everything.
it changed everything.
Everything.
Now I had a life that I was caring for. Like my wife and I are partners, so we're going to lean on each other through tough times. But you have this little life that you're responsible for, and
Yep.
even as they become an adult and they start their own families and they make their own decisions, it never changes. You don't
Yeah.
waver from not wanting
Never.
to have that. So I guess for me is that the stance on that is that I became a father the first time I held my daughter for the very first time, and then my second daughter, because that went so much more smoother as a pregnancy.
Yeah.
I was able to do like the skin to skin and all that
Everything.
stuff, and have her in the room, and we watched a Raptors game together,
Shit.
and that's when
That's a good first experience.
well,
man.
that's when they sucked ass, but they were just starting to bubble.
Easy, man. We need sponsorships.
We do. MLSLE, please. Well, hey, listen, the Raptors were in a rebuilding stage for the first 20 years of their run. Let's just be honest with that. But they actually won that night. And I remember I looked over at her and I was like, oh, looks like you're a little good luck charm. And she was just pastel drool just coming down her face. And it hasn't changed. But Ariana and Cassie are my lives.
Yeah.
And do they drive me crazy?
All the
Absolutely.
time.
Am I wearing a hat for style purposes? No, I'm wearing a hat to cover the hair that I've lost on the top of my head. It's factual. But I got to ask this.
Yeah.
Jerry becoming a boy mom and you becoming a girl dad just at the start of your relationships. You hadn't even had your own children together. These are separate entities that you're bringing together.
Yep.
What was that like for you guys? I mean, I think I already asked this question, but inheriting a daughter and her inheriting a son right off the bat must have been, did you, at some points, can I ask this? At some points in your relationship, were you like, I don't know if I'm cut out for this? Before you found out Amari was coming, were you like, is this something I could see in the long haul? Like, is this someone I want to be a stepmom to my son as much as I want to be that father figure to her daughter?
Yeah. You know what? Valid question, because things like that go through people's minds all the time, right?
100%.
Everyone always questions their abilities, right? It's not until you actually step into the role and be a part of this person's life that you really understand who you are and the role that you play. For me, I'll say I knew from the time I saw Jerry with Denver that this was somebody that I would love to be the mother of my children once upon a time, because, well, at one point,
Even knowing her eyebrows weren't real?
don't even go there. You're gonna get me and you killed. But
we're gonna get canceled, but not by anybody else, just by his wife.
It was nice knowing you all. I probably won't see you after this week because I'll be dead.
There'll be a GoFundMe for my cremation, and I don't know. Are you going to casket?
I'm going to casket.
Okay, so I will be cremated, and my ashes will be spread all over the Scottish Highlands.
Oh shit!
Yeah, fucking right.
No, we're dead. But
roll it and smoke it a little bit at least. Red Man, Method Man, baby.
Anybody want to smoke that ash?
Listen, How High was an underrated fucking flick. Okay. How High? We're
gonna have to save that for another episode.
We're gonna have to we'll have to save our review of How. You know what we should do? We should randomly one episode just take a night off from fatherhood and just watch a just absolutely shitty ass fucking movie
and review it, critique it.
But it has to be like we have to be drunk and high. We can't do it sober.
No.
You can't watch Red Man and Method Man cracking jokes sober. It just doesn't work.
No, it doesn't happen.
No, it doesn't happen. But anyways, back to what we were saying.
So back to what I was saying. I mean, I saw her. I saw how she was with her own daughter, and I saw how protective of her she was, and caring and nurturing of her. And this was all prior to us even really becoming that blended family. This was in the introductory stages. So I saw what she was doing as a mother by herself. And I said to myself, that's a strong, independent woman, but somebody who could be a nurturing mother. And for me, that was always an attraction piece. I think the first time I saw her, that was what I was like, shit. I'm like, who's that? And I'm like, oh, she's got a mini me. And I'm like, oh, and she's taking care of her. And at that point, I had just had my son as well, not in that relationship. But I said, if this works, I could see myself growing a family with her, because she'll be the one that's going to give them that love and that care that they need. But also on the flip side, give them that same discipline and structure that I'm so accustomed to and that I want for my children as well. So
the protection
it was almost a no-brainer
Yeah.
to say, hey, you know what? Like, this is going to work. And don't get me wrong, it's not all peaches and rainbows and ice cream and all that good shit. We have our arguments, we have our struggles, we have our wars. But at the end of the day, we've brought four beautiful children into this world. They look up to us, and we have to set prime examples for them. And we're not, never would we put our children through, I guess, anything that would, I would say, mentally scar or whatnot, them growing up. We always put them first. So if we've got an argument, a disagreement about whatever, whether it's regarding the children or not regarding the children, we take it outside or we take it away from them, because we know we've got to raise these children. We've got all types of outside influences that can make shit terrible for them, and we can't contribute to that. So I mean, I think for our relationship, knowing that we're both kind of on that same page, it helps us get through things much better than most would, right? So I'll say, that whole blended family aspect thing, once we kind of brought the kids together, and had them all in the same room, or the two of them in the same room, and ourselves, we started doing things as a family. You would never know from the outside looking at us that we were a blended family, because it was just how we interacted with each other, the love that we had for one another and whatnot, and I think that comes from both of our backgrounds and how we grew up. We brought a little bit of everything into it, and we walked around with two children that people would never know came from two different families, and made it work.
Absolutely did make it work. And I've actually been on some of those outings, and it's great. It's a great experience. I mean, the zoo.
Kids drive me crazy.
The zoo was.
Let's not talk about the zoo.
No, it was. We have to talk about the zoo, because I got to say this. We all went to the zoo in the summer, and you would think a lot of these guys and gals would be out and about.
No.
A lot of the exhibits, and Toronto Zoo, this is not a shot, but get your animals outside stretching their legs. Like, everybody was sleeping, and I get it.
If there was anybody even there.
There was
Half of them weren't there.
That's right.
Half of them weren't even in the exhibit. So we walked around.
What did we have?
Zoo.
We saw lions.
We saw lions sleeping.
We saw gorillas.
Yeah.
We saw a hippo, but I think we saw the hippo's ass.
Yeah.
Because his head was in the water.
I think we saw a giraffe.
We saw a warthog.
We did see. We saw a couple warthogs.
We never saw any red pandas.
No red.
Because it was too hot for them.
And the rest of them.
When we saw the typical farm animals, we saw your goats and your. But fuck, I could see those at a farm.
Right.
Yeah, I come to the zoo because I want to. Yeah, we saw a half of a polar bear because the poor guy was so fucking high. He was so big that his nose was still sticking out, and you could tell he was pissed because he generally wasn't getting cool enough. So Toronto Zoo, step up your game.
Yeah.
But on the plus side, we did get some free samples on the way. We got that cleaning stuff.
I still got it.
Yeah, we took like 18 cases. So loaded up the car. The girl's like, take as much as you want.
Thanks. Take the
Do
whole
not
thing.
tell people in this economy free shit is here. Okay.
Everybody grab a box. Let's go.
Everybody grab a box. Even his 3-year-old son had a
little box.
So let's actually talk about personalities amongst the kids. So we both talked about our teenagers and how they are, 13 and 14 respectively, going on 40. And these girls have been in each other's lives since the day they were born. Like, we had Cassie, and then Jerry had Denver a year later. Less than a year later, actually. I believe they were only like 10 months apart, give or take. It's not even a full year. So, and then obviously there's Elijah, and he's fantastic. He's a little pain in the ass, though. I will be honest with him. Like, his birthday, he's got a little attitude problem. And you know what? That's a good thing. Jerry and Derek, they enjoy allowing their friends who have become uncles to the children to discipline the children. So a lot of time, Elijah, I would like to think that Elijah probably won't have children because of me, because I've yanked
the wedgies.
I've yanked those diggery dudes
not the only one.
Yeah,
my brother does it too. It's almost like he likes it.
Yeah, I think he likes causing shit to get it, right? And your brother is another solid individual. He's great. He's awesome human being. Your parents, I love your parents.
Yeah.
And then Jerry's parents are also, Jerry's mom and her stepdad. Yeah. Great all around support system that you guys have there. But I mean, and then you've got Amari, who is much like Ariana. And I feel like this is
the bouncing ball.
The bouncing ball, but also very over emotional.
Yes.
And
yes,
Ariana's got a double-edged sword. She's got second child syndrome, but she's also the baby in the family.
Yeah, but Amari's the same.
Amari's the same. But Amari is middle child, I guess, if you want to put Elijah and Amari in that same bracket.
Yeah.
And then you have Denver as the oldest, and you have Zion as the baby boy. Well, he's not really bringing up the rear, because if you looked at Zion, you would think he was older than Amari.
Yeah.
Amari.
Zion's brute. He's just brolic.
Well,
same size.
As my friend Rob would say, when it comes to wrestlers that are big boys like that, he's just dense.
Yeah,
he's got density.
Very dense. you pick him up and you pick up Amari. You're like, which one of you two's been eating all the food? You
But
know it.
but
automatically.
Amari had some difficulties, right? As a
Yeah,
baby? He had
yeah,
some
that was
issues
tough.
with food, right?
That was tough. You know, he was born with a condition called pyloric stenosis. So for the first 27 days of his life, he could not digest any food. And I remember I have this memory, vivid memory from the hospital. And you know, we wouldn't have thought anything different of it, maybe other than the fact that I was lifting him up after he had eaten. But you know, for those of you who know me, I come from African descent. So my family is from Ghana, West Africa, and a movie that's always resonated with me has been Lion King. So if you remember the opening scene where Simba is being introduced, I decided it would be a good idea to do that to my brand new baby boy. Unbeknownst to me, he had this condition and had just finished feeding. And guess what? I ate a mouthful of his undigested formula. So that was the beginning of it, and it didn't end there. You know, we went seeing doctors here,
It's still
there, everywhere.
warm.
I don't want to relive that moment. But you know, that was kind of okay. Yeah, it's normal. There's no issues with it. But you know, as time progressed, we're talking days, weeks. You know, where he would feed and automatically projectile vomit. I'm talking within minutes.
Like The Exorcist,
Yeah,
like just
oh,
profuse.
all over. The whole feeding was out, and we had no idea what it was. We thought it could have been, you know, lactose intolerance. So we took him to a doctor. They said, okay, try soy. Try the soy, same thing. Try this, try that, try this, try that. Nobody in their right mind, no doctor could seem to figure it out. And one day we just said, fuck it, enough's enough. We're going to sick kids. So this is 26 days of his life now. You know, hasn't been able to hold anything down. He's lost weight at this point, you know, being a newborn. That those first couple of weeks are the most critical moments of time
it's key
to start your growth. And you know, he's getting no nutrients, he's getting nothing. And we said enough's enough. Took him down to sick kids. And we're sitting in the waiting room, and lo and behold, we feed him, and boom, he puts on a show for everybody in the waiting room. And the nurse is just like, oh shit, we got a real fucking problem here. That's not normal. So finally we get the attention we need. They start doing x-rays and whatnot, and you know, the poking and the prodding, and come back and say, yeah, you know what, we need to operate. So essentially, for those who don't know, pyloric stenosis is a tightening of the muscle right before the stomach, and his was pretty much clamped shut where it should be, you know, about a loony size to be able to let food through and digest properly. So because he wasn't able to get it into his stomach, it was forced right back out. So they told us, hey, we're gonna have to operate on him, and it definitely was
scary moment.
scary.
Yeah,
Definitely a scary moment to know that my 27-day-old infant needed to have an operation performed on him, and it wasn't easy. You know, they told us that we stayed at the hospital overnight, said that he'd be going under the knife the next day. um and that moment came, and I think, you know, that was probably one of the most crippling moments I've had as a parent.
and what did you like? Sorry to interrupt, but what did you
Yeah.
feel? Did you feel broken?
Helpless.
You felt like because
Helpless.
you couldn't
Absolutely
protect
helpless.
him.
I couldn't help him.
Yeah.
There was nothing I could do for him. And I just said, this knows no 1-month-old baby should have to go through this. And I know people go through way, way, way worse. But you know, for me, you know, this is my third child, and not one of them has had to go through anything like this. So for me, I have no words, nothing. I can't describe the feeling that I felt. Everything in me just sunk and shut down. And the only thing I could hope for was that he would get in and get out and be okay.
How long was the operation?
Like, if I remember, you know how you said you black out when you get in a rage?
Yeah.
I went dizzy to the point I don't remember how much time had elapsed. Like, it was that
So
bad.
when did you feel yourself snap out of it? Was when
When we got word that
it all
everything
went
was
through?
good, he came out. It would have had to have been a couple of hours, but he came out. They brought him out, saw him. He looked fine. And then we just said, okay, here we go. Let's give it a shot. They kept us overnight. You know, they said, try and feed him. Let's see if he keeps it down. And he did. And, you know, at that point, I told myself, you know, this kid of mine is going to be a warrior. And that is exactly what the fuck this little kid has become, a goddamn warrior. So, you know, that's a moment you know, as bad as an experience as it was, I think it kind of helped me understand the type of kid he was going to be growing up, and you know what, it's fitting. He's been a fighter, he'll always be a fighter, and that's how I see him. Whenever I see him, no matter what he puts his mind to, headstrong, physical strong, he does nothing could stop him. That's what he's going to be. Nothing will stop him. The world wait for Amari. He's coming for you.
I love that. I love that. And then you look at Zion, who is everything that Amari didn't eat for the first 27 days of his life. Zion picked right up. He ate all of it.
He ate all of it and some.
We talked about density. We're talking like this kid. He is 3. He comes up to my waist, and I'm not a short guy by any standpoint. He comes up to my waist.
Yep.
He's a big boy, but he also has the most malicious smile, and you know he's getting into some. You know he's getting into some shit.
Yep.
And
all the time.
And he bullies the shit out of Amari.
And sometimes Elijah.
And I believe that too. I believe that too.
He just likes to ragdoll everybody. He's a big fucking brute kid. He does not care how big you are. Nothing scares him. Not a damn thing.
So NFL, keep your ears to the grindstone. He's coming.
He's coming. Yeah. Look out for him.
Zion's who's who. It's
coming for you guys, man. It's coming.
So, you know, it's funny you mentioned about the helplessness, because we had somewhat of a situation, a scare with Cassandra when she was younger. When she was younger, she developed a really bad croup. Ooh. And I don't know if anybody who's ever been out there who's been through croup. It is a crippling thing. It's like their airways shut. They have a cough that sounds like a seal. They can barely breathe. So the first time, now we've been through croup, so we know the signals. You turn on the hot water in the bathroom, you let the steam in. If it's cold outside, it's even better. You roll the windows down, you drive around with them in the car. The cold opens up the airwaves. But we didn't know what it was. So at one point she was turning purple, and we rushed her to the hospital. And Brampton, to their unfortunate task, they are overwhelmed here at the Brampton hospitals, for the simple fact there's a lot of people that don't realize that a hospital is for emergencies only, not for a cough and a cold, and a lot of times they're overrun with the simplest of things. But luckily enough, there was a nurse, a male nurse actually, at the counter. We were waiting to get we're waiting in the triage. Well, no, this was a different nurse. I think that nurse was off that day, or maybe transferred hospitals. Why you got to go there? Why you got to bring it up?
Hey, man, I'm just saying.
That was so 30 minutes ago, man. But we, he saw her coughing, and he saw her like turning blue, and he had just let in a elderly person with a flu. So I bit my tongue on that one. I was like, okay. But then I saw a well-to-do young man who was predominantly healthy that came in, that was sniffling and coughing, and he let him in. And I walked over and I said, does my daughter have to collapse on the floor before you see her? And they looked over. He saw her literally turning purple and blue. They rushed her in. We got a room. They actually pulled the guy out of his room and put her in the room. So we're in there with the room. They tell us that they're going to check us in, and they gave us, at the time, now it's a liquid shot. It almost looks like a clear shot.
Okay.
And you just drink it, and it numbs everything and calms everything right down. But before, it used to be a mask with gas, and it used to be like a smoking kind of mask. So here's this 3-year-old. It's literally 3 a.m. We've been at the hospital now for 4 hours, and they tell her she's got to put this mask on. She is freaking,
not having it.
And so she's crying, but she can't cry because she can't get anything out. So luckily enough, they were able to, not so much sedate her, but my wife held her. I calmed her down. I sang her the song that I used to sing to her as a baby, and I don't have a singing voice, but it's My Eyes Adore You by the Four Seasons. Check it out. It's a great tune. Great tune. And she eventually drifted off to sleep. She got everything in. They checked her into the room. Mom stayed with her in the room. I went home to pack her favorite stuffed animals, get her toys, get 3 hours of sleep, then come back. And luckily enough, she was okay. And then we went back for croup a couple times, and then we were able to kind of get a refill on the prescription till thankfully she eventually grew out of it. Croup is almost like early stages of asthma, if you will, but it's not asthma. So luckily enough, she was able to grow out of it, and now you can't keep the mouth shut. It's frustrating, but you know what? I will say this, and I think we'll wrap up after this, but I think this was a great first episode. We talked a lot about our early days of fatherhood, and the next couple of episodes, we're going to peel back the onion even more. There's going to be some laughs. There's going to be some emotional moments. There absolutely will be. We're going to get into our histories as kids growing up and stuff like that. And you know what? Anybody that likes what we're doing here, please like, subscribe. It'll be on the Straight Talk Wrestling channel, promoting it on Straight Talk and our own socials.
That's it.
We talked about that beforehand. Derek's got to get more socially media inclined.
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm not a social media guru, but
Well,
I'm getting there.
now I'm a pseudo celebrity in my own mind, and you are now becoming a pseudo celebrity. But I
This
will,
is my intro to fame.
I will say this: fatherhood is not easy, and
No.
I think we'll end these. We'll end every episode off with an inspirational quote from one of us. I'll do this one.
I'll
You do the next one. Fatherhood is not easy. Manhood is not easy. A lot of the time, we're told to think and feel a certain way because we can't break down walls. We can't break down emotion. We can't be honest with ourselves. We can't look in the mirror and say, I'm not okay.
Yeah.
Even though men's mental health is very open,
Yeah.
I've had my struggles. I'll be honest right now. Listen, I'll let everybody know who may not know. 2 years ago, I was suicidal. I was ready to close my eyes, go to sleep forever, leave everything behind. And what a grave mistake I would have been for me, because I would have missed out on my children. And that's something I think about every day. And I think about how dark, in a dark place I was, but I rose above it and I got the help that I needed. But being a father is not easy.
No.
Being a man in this world nowadays is not easy. But the one thing that does keep me centered is my family. My kids know the struggles that I've had. I'm very open and honest with them and the challenges that I faced as a human being. And they're opening. And I have a great wife who, like I said, we're not peaches and cream either. We have a great relationship, but 10 years ago, she was ready to leave me because I was so angry. And I needed to make the realization on my own to get the help that I got. And am I perfect now? No. Am I broken with a little bit of plaster? Hell yeah.
That's okay. Though.
And I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
Because the scars taught me how to be alone, but also taught me that I need to lean on someone. And without her, I'd be dead. I always tell this to everybody, she saved my life. And she gave me 2 great blessings and that stupid little pain in the ass dog. But that's I have beef with the dog. We'll get into that in another episode. But understand that you are not alone. There is help for you. Message us, slide into our DMs.
Absolutely.
We'll do what we can. We're not psychiatrists, but we've both been down some dark shit in our lives. So from father to father to fathers, thank you so much for tuning in for episode 1. Check us out every Monday, Tuesday, depending on schedules, but we're going to try to drop one weekly or bi-weekly. We'll see how things go. But peace, love, and fatherhood. We'll see you guys next time.
Peace.
We just people from the north side. Once the Timmy's hit the shore fine. Winter ready on the four ties. Heavy traffic.